Although the first live-action G.I. Joe movie didn't win it.
Intro.
What? Oh, fuck, yeah. Fuck. Choose this. Okay. Although the first live-action G.I. Joe movie didn't win any awards, I'd argue that it should have because the guy playing Snake Eyes showed a Daniel Day-Lewis level of dedication to the role he was playing by never speaking while he was in costume.
So for those of us who don't know, including myself, who was in the Snake Eyes costume?
Well, if you like Brad and you don't have the entire IMDb page of terrible movies memorised like I do, the guy playing Snake Eyes was one Raymond Ray Park.
I know you said that with confidence, but that name means nothing to me.
Do you not know who Ray Park is?
No.
Okay, do you know who Darth Maul is?
Obviously.
Yeah, well, he was Darth Maul. Do you know what I find really funny about him playing Darth Maul?
What?
Because that means he's played two characters who are completely silent and never say a word.
Well, Darth Maul does say a word in the film.
But here's the thing, that isn't Ray Park speaking because they dubbed him over with Peter Serafinowicz. So even when he got a speaking role, they still dubbed him over. Another role people might recognise Park from, and my personal favourite one of his, is Toad in the X-Men. Because he kicks some ass in that movie, doesn't you think? Oh, we've got a woman who controls the power of weather itself. We've got a guy who fires punch lasers out of his eyes. We've got a woman with vast psychic powers and the ability to like obliterate a human skull with like a flick of a wrist. And who do they send to kick these guys' asses? They send a guy with Toad powers. And he nearly does it.
A guy with a really long tongue.
A guy with a really long tongue nearly beats the shit out of 3 of the founding members of the X-Men.
I reckon he might have been able to do it if he just knew what happened to a Toad when he gets struck by lightning.
Oh man, if we're going to talk about the X-Men movie, the first one, briefly, can we just talk about the fact that Halle Berry tries so hard to have an African accent in that movie? And it was so bad and was criticised and mocked so widely, she stopped talking with it in subsequent sequels to the movie. Because so many people were like, that accent was fucking horrendous. Don't do it again. It's less offensive if you just talk with your normal voice. Oh, man. Yeah, go Ray Park. He nearly whooped the X-Men's ass. You go.
Considering that I've never heard his name, he's in some quite big stuff.
Oh, he's in a lot of big movies because he works mostly as a stuntman. And if you want to, for the audience at home, so they can all feel bad for not knowing who the fuck this guy is, just list some of the bigger movies he's worked on. Like in those little fact bars you put below me, and we'll continue talking about how awesome he was when he was playing Snake Eyes. Getting back to G.I. Joe and the casting of Snake Eyes specifically, Park was seen as being a natural choice to play the character.
Why was Park considered to be the perfect choice for Snake Eyes?
Well, let's have a little show and tell, shall we, to explain why Park was the perfect choice to play Snake Eyes. Now, you have a picture of Snake Eyes in front of you, don't you, Brad?
Yeah.
And now, hopefully, there's a picture of Snake Eyes behind me for the audience at home. What's the first thing you notice about Mr. Snake Eyes?
He's completely covered in armour.
Yeah, head to toe, and you can't see any of his features. Also, he's a cool ninja man. So, obviously, the role requires someone who can do cool ninja shit, which Park can do because he is a stuntman. So, an ideal choice to play a character who you can't see the face of, because it's cheaper to hire a stuntman than it is to hire an actor, unfortunately, even though stuntmen can do way cooler shit. Another reason Park was seen as being such an ideal choice to play the character of Snake Eyes, in addition to him being a stuntman who could do all the awesome cool shit required of the character in the movies, is that he's a massive fan of the character in general and loves G.I. Joe. The thing is though, this actually ended up being quite a big problem on set.
I'm assuming this comes back to what you said at the start about him never speaking in costume.
Yes, because if people don't know anything about G.I. Joe, all you really need to know about Snake Eyes is that he never fucking speaks, ever. And Park, being a huge fan of G.I. Joe, took this to heart and never spoke when he was wearing the G.I. Joe costume.
That's fine though, I mean that just shows he's dedicated to the character he's playing.
There's dedication to the character you're playing, and then there's what Park did when he was playing Snake Eyes. Because according to his co-stars, he never took that fucking costume off. So to them, he was just this silent, towering obelisk of blackness that was always in the background when they were like off set. And he never spoke when he was wearing that costume, because obviously he loves Snake Eyes that much. And he's like, no, Snake Eyes doesn't talk, so I'm not going to talk. But here's the thing though, that ended up being kind of a big problem and a huge pain in the ass for everybody on set.
Well, yeah, I understand that. You can hardly give somebody direction or get feedback from them.
I'm just going to cut you off there, Brad. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that Ray Park was considered to be the resident G.I. Joe expert on set.
Oh.
And whenever anyone in the movie, or like on the cast and crew, had a question about G.I. Joe, or the lore, or the character they were playing, they were told, go ask Ray. You can probably see where this is going, can't you? Because whenever anyone had a question and they took that suggestion and went and asked Ray, he'd be in the costume and thus would not want to speak to them. And according to interviews with the cast after the fact, Ray, when asked a question, would either stand there in silence and stare at them until they walked away awkwardly, or would silently shake his head in disgust and go back to whatever he was doing. I'd like to think that Ray was just being quite meta with it, and when they were asking him questions about G.I. Joe, he was actually giving them a lesson in G.I. Joe lore by not talking. So I'd say, oh, I don't know anything about G.I. Joe. Why are you not talking, Ray? And he's in his head, he's going, they'll get it eventually. They'll get it eventually. And they probably walked away thinking, what an asshole. And then Ray's in his head going, they got it.
I taught them.
I taught them the true nature of Snake Eyes. This character who was literally invented to sell toys. We need to talk about this because I found this hilarious. If people don't know, like G.I. Joe, the show was a vehicle to sell toys. More so than the Transformers, I'd argue. And that's impressive considering Transformers were literally vehicles that were toys. And the story behind how Snake Eyes, the character, came about is that the company making it, I think it was Hasbro at the time or whatever, went, we've got a shitload of this black plastic left over. We don't know what to do with it. So they just made a ninja character and called it Snake Eyes.
So the only reason he exists is because they wanted to try and get rid of some excess plastic?
It's either excess plastic or they were trying to make a character very cheaply, so they just cast it all out of the same type of plastic and didn't paint it, and then said it was Snake Eyes. And he ended up being the most popular character in the entire fucking series. So well done, Hasbro, I guess. But I just love that idea. It's, oh man, right, we need to make a character, but we don't want to spend a lot of money designing him. He's a ninja. What? Well, ninjas, they wear all black. Yeah, but like, what about, you sure you can see his eyes? No, he wears a visor. Done. Can I just say that I love that story, because I think it just encapsulates the cynical 80s businessman. It's like, we need to sell toys to kids, but we don't want to spend a lot of money. Oh, fuck it, just cast it out of black plastic and say it's a ninja. Done. And it becomes the best-selling toy of the entire fucking franchise, and the most popular character. Holy shit. Well done, the guy who came up with that idea. I bet you got a fucking raise for that, wouldn't you? We could make it all out of black plastic. And then they made his arch enemy, Storm Shadow, who's entirely white.
Alternatively, white plastic left over.
Probably, yeah.
Ray Park must have taken that costume off at some point.
Of course, there were situations that, called for him to not be wearing that awesome costume. And he did begrudgingly agree to, not wear it for things like rehearsing fight scenes. We need to communicate with the cast and crew and the stunt team about where he needs to be and what he needs to do. But at every possible opportunity he had to wear that costume, he would be wearing that costume. And this led to a fucking amazing rumour amongst the cast that he wore it when he was asleep. It's very obvious that rumour is like a joke at Park's expense about how much he enjoyed wearing the Snake Eyes costume. But I'm choosing not to take it as a joke and instead as a pure statement of fact. And I'm choosing to believe that Park walked around in that costume as much as he could and even took it home and slept in it. And I'm just imagining his wife hearing her husband shuffle in at 3 a.m. after a long day of shooting and crawl into bed, and she just rolls over and sees the third member of Daft Punk spooning her.
Now that you've mentioned it, he does actually have a really Daft Punk look to his armour.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Brad, because as people who've watched these videos before might know, I'm a big fan of Daft Punk, and I also quite love cool ninja shit. And we all know, if you've watched these before, Brad loves making those edits of the stupid suggestions that I make. And since you brought it up, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to now Photoshop Snake Eyes into a picture of Daft Punk to see how well he fits in with the group. Because I bet he does.
I bet he looks like he fits in there.
He does, does he? I'm imagining it in my head now and it's pretty sick. I'm just imagining him now in the Get Lucky video playing the drums. That'd be sick. Can you do that?
I could probably do that.
Can you put his head on? Can you put his head onto the drummer? That'd be great. Thank you. Or the guitarist. On all of the people's faces.
So you want his head on everybody?
Yeah. And then can you find just footage of someone on a pole dance and put his head on there as well? It's just
Karl,
it's a fetish of mine. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
I'd love it if every time the cast came in, they were like, I wonder if I'm going to catch him on a costume day.
Yeah, is he actually shooting a scene today or is he just rehearsing? 'Cause I really, really need to ask him for that 20 quid I borrowed him. That'd be the best one. It's like, you just walk up and say, oh, Ray, have you got that 20 quid you owe me? It's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, you're really committed to that costume. Inside his head, it's like, yeah, got away with it. It's like, he starts wearing it when he's driving to and from the studio and he gets pulled over by the police. Sir, do you know how fast you were going? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Snake Eyes. Continue right ahead. So you could get get away with so much shit wearing that
So
costume.
imagine someone has beef with him and they walk up to him out of costume and about to say something. He runs away and then comes back in costume.
Oh, damn it, I can't pick a fight with Snake Eyes.
I really wouldn't pick a fight with Ray Park anyway.
No, not given the shit he can do. Because I think there's a great clip somewhere where he was at like a fan convention and doing some Q&A and someone just hands him a lightsaber and he does like he can still do all the Darth Maul shit now 10 years later. Like he just remembers it all. It's like, and not on top of that he can do all the cool ninja shit that Snake Eyes does, and he's a big frog.
Imagine combining the three.
Oh my god, Darth Maul cross with Toad, cross with fucking Snake. That's a villain. Or potentially the greatest hero ever. Because I believe the innate goodness of Snake Eyes is meant to overpower the evilness of like Toad and Darth Maul. Like when Ryu shakes off the Dark Hado and just does like the ultimate Shin Shoryuken and knocks people's fucking head off. Which is my favourite thing about Ryu. That he has the ability to become evil Ryu, but if he gets really, really pissed, he can just shake it off. He's like, no, you know what? No, I'm Taylor Swift in this bitch. I'm just gonna punch you with pure, unequalled stillness. There were some Photoshop ideas there, Brad, because I've already asked you to do one. You get to pick. What do you want to make? Do you want to make Snake Eyes cross with Darth Maul and Toad, or do you want to make Ryu with Taylor Swift's head uppercutting someone? And probably it'll be Miley Cyrus, won't it? Because that's her rival.
You know what, I think let's leave it blank, and when you watch the video later,
I'll know which one you
look
said.
over your shoulder and admire the image.
So I am now either looking at Toad combined with Darth Maul combined with Snake Eyes, or Taylor Swift shaking off the Dark Hado to uppercut the shit out of Miley Cyrus. Either way, I'm looking at a good fucking image. But we need to close this video off. At this point, I'm starting to think that the only reason Park didn't talk to people while in costume as Snake Eyes is because he knew talking would cut into his valuable pretending to be Snake Eyes time. So we've talked a lot about the random edits and photoshops you make at my behest, and I want to talk more about them, because I don't think you get enough credit for those, because they always make me laugh like a jackass, and they appear in the background of videos for like 3 seconds sometimes before immediately getting covered up by something else. And I feel so bad, because some of them you spend so much time making, and then they immediately just get covered up, and then never appear in another video again. Like the one for me is the Dobby Magneto one. Holy shit, I was laughing so much when I saw just Dobby flying like on a bloodshed with knives everywhere, controlling fucking the power of Dio, man. Holy shit, that was awesome.
I think my favourites are the RoboCop YouTube thumbnails.
Oh man, they were amazing. You had such a laugh. I could hear you laughing making them. But it's like, there's a lot of work that goes into them beyond just the edit, isn't there? People don't know. It's like, even the thumbnails of these videos have a lot of like little details in that no one notices, because it's a fucking thumbnail like this big. It's like, if you can bring a big one up behind me, because there's something he pointed out to me that I didn't notice. It's like, do you edit, like sometimes you put the character in the foreground slightly?
Yeah, the part of them goes in front of the text, so it looks like the text is around there.
Yeah, so what you should do now is put the little YouTuber red circle around it so people notice it. But like, that's something that I literally have never noticed, and you've been doing it for every single fucking video. So I need to ask Brad, are you going to do anything with these images?
Maybe at some point.
You need to do it. Like, if people have suggestions for what you can do with them, because I want to see them in the fucking Tate Modern.
The thing about a lot of them is, the quality of the image depends on how much time I actually end up having to do it. Like, you'll notice some of the video ones look really crappy, because I literally have like an hour.
The Arcade one is a well, the thing is, the stuff like
The Arcade one took fucking ages.
Some of them are so
because
good.
I had to do frame by frame of him moving across and a handheld shaky
I'm talking about this fully knowing that like you may have spent in the time before this video goes up and the time we're talking now, like hours and hours painstakingly photoshopping Taylor Swift's face onto Ryu so she can shake off the Dark Hado. And like, I only sat just like on my own, it's like, oh, my laptop, like, that was a funny joke, wasn't it? And that's like 4 hours of your life. So I would like to say now, from myself and the audience, thank you so much.